I want to bring in former South Carolina Republican Chair Van Hipp. Van, what do you make of this idea, find an alternative to either of these guys? I guess I could throw in John Kasich, to any of those guys. How well would that go down?
I don't think so, and even Dr. Carson said that today. And, Neil, I think after California, if nobody's got 1237, let me tell you, we haven't seen the half of it. But the truth is, so much of it is going to be decided only a week before we get to Cleveland at the Rules Committee. What's Rule 40 going to say? And Rule 40 is basically a rule that says you've got to win a certain number of states to even be on that ballot at the convention in the first place. Right now it's 8,
right.
And there's a lot of...
And by the way, 8 with 50% or more of the vote, which
right.
only Donald Trump would qualify for at this point.
That's right. And then do they lower the threshold? Right now, it looks like the Cruz people and the Trump people are working together behind the scenes to have some kind of threshold to keep Kasich off the ballot, because each one, and this is pretty interesting, Neil, each candidate, Cruz and Trump, both believe they can win head-to-head against each other on the first ballot. So right now, at the state conventions...
Well, that would take his 140-some-odd delegates, then, right, and then see if they could seize, you know,
right.
Half or more of those, which is wishful thinking. And I'm wondering if even in that event, it would be enough to bring one or the other to 1237.
It'll be very tough. And don't forget Rubio. I mean, he won 3 states.
Good
so
point.
Do they cut a deal with him and lower the threshold to 3? And also, I go back to what I call the Schweiker factor, and I'm dating myself. Remember, liberal Republican Senator Richard Schweiker of Pennsylvania, when Ronald Reagan was so close to Gerald Ford, he announced Richard Schweiker as his choice for vice president, trying to peel off votes, and then almost got him there.
Almost got him there, because the idea if he could bring the Pennsylvania delegation with him, neither got to the convention. Gerald Ford, the sitting president, and Ronald Reagan, the big challenger, with the delegates necessary. That move, if it had worked, would have just barely gotten that Pennsylvania delegation, and the nomination we know never happened, and we know what happened 4 years later. But can they settle all these differences and still all walk out friends? Donald Trump has all but said, if I walk out of here without the nomination and I have the most delegates going in, not fair, not right, I might go third party.
You know what's interesting? Even Lindsey Graham, hardly a fan of Donald Trump's. He hosted a fundraiser for Senator Cruz in New York recently. Even he said if Trump has such a commanding lead going in, it is so close. I mean, he's so close to 1237. It would not only be unfair to Trump, but it would do harm to the Republican Party. So I think
Van, you're a great historian. Besides just a guy that served this country honorably, we have rules, and those rules are half the delegates plus 1. In the case of the Republicans, that's 1237. Close is no cigar, right? I mean, you
exactly
have to
right.
get that, right?
And here's a key point. There is nothing sinister afoot with the rules process as far as like the delegate selection process is concerned, I know in South Carolina. Right. It's the same process we've had since 1980. And I'm dating myself. I was on the committee that helped put that in place back then. It's the same process, and if Trump has had one weakness, it's that lack of campaign structure to capture people who want to help, including the delegate selection process. I would say this, though, Neil. Yeah. I think he may have begun to move in the right direction last week with bringing on Paul Manafort, who counted votes at the convention for Gerald Ford in '76. Yeah. And it helped in North Dakota this weekend, so, but it should have been done a lot earlier.
I hear you, my friend. Thank you very much, Van Hipp. And to Van's point, you know, you need those delegates to be the nominee. It would be like hitting a triple and saying, why don't you just give me the home run? Because you're 3/4 away to home base, which is why that analogy makes sense.